Now, this is the compression stack right here, and this is where surgery begins. Take the hands off there like that, and what we're going to do, we're going to start as if it's on the shaft, and put them down in order. Boom, boom, that was next to that. Oh yeah, I can tell we're going to make some good changes on this baby. Too much high-speed compression. That's what makes things harsh when you're riding. Very harsh. We're going to make that smooth. It's going to roll right over chatter stuff like nobody's business. Okay. Yep. And we have just very few. I mean, we only have 1, 2, 3, 4, basically 5 low-speed compression shims. Sometimes they double up on each other, but okay, can we get a? You guys see that? Okay. This is what changes the way a bike runs on the shock suspension. This is what is called a shim. The diameter of the shim, the thickness of the shim, is what determines how much oil force is required to make that shock move. These big round ones that are at the base, even right to here, this is called a crossover. That's a little bit smaller of a shim that allows things to flex a little. There's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these. That's not going to carry very much weight. It's going to make the shock start to move really easy and early, so it's going to bottom out easy. And there's a ton. All these tapered shims are part of the high-speed compression, and there's a lot of them. We're going to reduce the thickness and how many we have of those. We're going to increase these, and that's going to totally change how that shock feels. Okay, folks, we're back for follow-up now. I've got laid out my shim stack here so you guys can see. This is the orientation of the shims that I'm going to put back on this shaft as we start to reassemble. I've got everything written down, the sizes of the shims, the thickness, the original setup. I can always go back to that if we don't like how it works. I've got the new ones listed right here. And so we're going to start assembling. Basically, this is a nice clean shock shaft now. We're going to put the round retainer on first. Then we are going to put the bumper next. Then we're going to put the dust cover next. Then the seal head. Be very careful when you put that on so you don't damage the seal. The seals are good. I checked them out really carefully. You can replace them if necessary, but these are in good shape, actually, surprisingly. So that'll go on next. There's 2 on the shaft side. This flat washer goes on first. Then we're actually going to go the reverse for the compression stack, and I have them in order, and every single one I'm going to wipe off before I put back on. Got everything written down as long as I don't change the order. This is how we go, and I've got what's called a reverse stack. These shims I'm putting on now actually do nothing until I get to till they start getting wider again. This just creates a little more room for these shims to flex as the oil goes past, and by doing that it kind of softens it up just a little bit. So now you're going to start to see, I don't know if you can see with the video or not, it's okay, we'll look in a second. They're starting to get bigger as they go up. And I've reduced the thickness on some of the high-speed compression, which is what we're working on right now. This is all high-speed compression. And I've also removed 1 or 2 along the way as well, which is going to soften up all that chatter when you're riding down a fast, straight road with a lot of those little braking bumps and stuff in there. And now I've got putting in what's called a crossover, which are 2 small shims that allow the low speed shims to flex. And now is my low speed. These are all, I've added a fair bit of low speed dampening. That way if EveRide decides to put some serious weight on the back of this thing, his shock can handle it with the simple couple of clicks on the clicker and stiffen it up. and it will ride hopefully just as well as when he does not have weight on it, if he remembers to turn the clickers back a few notches. So we're just about there on the compression side. We are not changing the rebound shims at all. We're not changing the spring. We're not changing radically the speed of the bike or anything like that. So we won't need to make any changes on that. That's a little bit more complicated too than what we're going to need to do today. But we're almost there. Okay, there's all the compression side. Then what happens is the piston goes back on. Large ports go to the compression side, and then what we do is we start going backwards on this one. So we're going to start right here, work our way backwards, and the shims will naturally fit if you keep them in order. You'll see that the rebound shims won't fit very good on the compression side because they're actually a little smaller. And we're getting close here. Just having those on, free rags, it's better. Occasionally get a little bit of lint here. But just about there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put a little washer on. And then we're going to Loctite red. Loctite red. That nut. You do not want that nut coming off. Holy cow, that would be a bad day. Right there is good, so we're going to Loctite this, going to torque it down, and the spade will be ready to assemble.
Oh, you spilled.
I spilled on it. Let's come over there. Okay folks, if you remember when we were taking this apart, I could not get this adjuster to budge. It was just totally locked in, so I took this outer piece off, and weird enough, I took it out, then all of a sudden it freed it up and it's turning great. So now it's tightened back down again, but I've got good adjustment of the compression adjuster. So sometimes people will bottom this thing out unintentionally and it jams everything up inside. So be careful when you're doing your adjustments. You just lightly bottom it out and then go to the first click, and that's position number 1. And so we're good to go now. So I'm going to back it all the way out for bleeding, which we're getting ready to put this thing back together now, so it won't be long.